The train screamed as it slowed to a halt, steel wheels shrieking against the rails, a cloud of steam hissing into the cool evening air. The sun hung low, spilling gold across the endless plains, and the mountains in the distance turned purple with shadows. On the wooden platform of Dry Creek Station, Jeb Carter stood waiting. His hat brim shaded his eyes. His vest carried the dust of 100 rides. Yet under the rough exterior, Jeb's chest carried a steady thrum of nerves he'd never admit to another soul. He wasn't waiting for cattle, nor for supplies. He was waiting for a wife. Weeks ago, he had sent a letter eastward, answering an advertisement for a mail-order bride. The woman who wrote back, a Miss Eleanor Whitfield, promised grace, refinement, and devotion. Her careful handwriting hinted at education. Her words painted a picture of a woman who could ease the silence of his lonely homestead. After years of wind, gun smoke, and whiskey, Jeb wanted something softer, someone to hold on to when the nights stretched long. The doors of the passenger car opened, and travelers stepped out, merchants, families, drifters. Jeb's sharp eyes scanned every face. Then she appeared. She was not the woman he had pictured. No silk dress, no dainty gloves. Instead, a young woman in a simple blue prairie gown, the hem dusted from travel, stepped down. A battered leather satchel hung at her side, and her dark hair, braided neatly, gleamed in the light. Her face was strong, striking in its honesty, but there was fire in her gaze, not timidity. She paused, straightened her back, and looked directly at him as though she already knew he was the man who had come for her. Jeb frowned, his jaw tightening. This wasn't Miss Eleanor Whitfield. He'd been promised refinement, softness. This woman carried herself like she'd weathered storms on her own. "You're not what I ordered," he said, his voice low and edged with disappointment. Her chin lifted, and for a heartbeat, silence filled the platform. Then she answered, her voice steady as a drawn arrow. "And maybe you're not what I was hoping for either." The station master, overhearing, gave a chuckle as he hauled a crate from the baggage car. "Looks like you two best figure it out," he muttered. "Next train's not coming through here for weeks." Jeb's frown deepened. The mistake was plain, but so was the problem. Clara Dawson, she introduced herself with a proud tilt of her head, had nowhere else to go. And though his pride bristled, Jeb wasn't the kind of man to leave a woman stranded on a platform with nightfall creeping in. "Come on," he said finally, curtly. "I'll get you to the ranch. We'll sort the rest later." And with that, the mismatched pair climbed into his wagon, the wheels creaking as they rolled toward a horizon of dust, silence, and a future neither of them expected. The wagon jolted as the horses pulled them away from the station, the sound of iron wheels fading behind them, until only the creak of wood and the steady rhythm of hooves filled the air. Wind bent the tall grass in rolling waves, and the scent of dust and sage drifted through the air. Beside him, Clara Dawson sat straight back, her satchel clutched tightly on her lap. Neither spoke at first. The silence between them was sharp, edged with unspoken questions. Finally, Clara broke it. "You don't have to act like I'm some burden you've been cursed with," she said, her tone crisp but not cruel. Jeb glanced at her, his jaw set. "I was expecting someone else. Someone I wrote to. Someone who was supposed to fit what I need." Her eyes flashed, catching the last of the sunlight. "And maybe I was expecting a man who didn't look at me like I was a broken tool." He almost laughed, though it came out more like a grunt. "You've got a sharp tongue for someone depending on my wagon to keep her off the coyotes tonight." That earned him silence again, though he noticed her grip on the satchel loosened just a little. For a long while, the only sound was the wagon, rolling over ruts, and the wind, sighing across the plains. Night settled slow and deep. Jeb pulled the horses to a stop, near a small grove where a trickle of water ran, a place he often camped on long rides. Clara stepped down without waiting for him to offer a hand. She moved with a quiet competence, shaking out her skirts, then kneeling to help arrange the wood. Jeb watched her for a moment, surprise tugging at him. Most women he'd met from the east wouldn't have dirtied their gloves with firewood. "You done this before?" he asked, striking flint against steel. She met his eyes across the sparks. "Hardship teaches quick lessons," she said simply. The fire caught, sending warmth against the chill air. For the first time since they'd met, Jeb looked at her not as a mistake, but as a mystery. She wasn't Eleanor Whitfield. She wasn't soft silk and polite smiles, but there was steel in her backbone and something steady in her gaze. And though he didn't say it aloud, Jeb felt the smallest crack in his certainty. Perhaps the woman fate had sent wasn't the one he'd ordered. But maybe, just maybe, she was the one he needed. Jeb leaned against his saddle, hat tilted forward, pretending at rest though his eyes never fully closed. Life on the frontier taught a man to sleep light. Across the fire, Clara sat with her knees drawn up, staring into the flames as though they held memories she'd rather forget. At last, she spoke, her voice softer than before. "You said you were expecting someone else. What kind of woman was she?" Jeb shifted, uncomfortable with the question. "A lady from the East, well-bred, polite, someone who'd fit in where I can't." Clara gave a dry laugh, though it carried no humor. "Sounds like you wanted a porcelain doll. Pretty, fragile, and liable to crack the first time the wind howled too hard." He frowned. "I wanted peace. Someone to ease the edges of a life that's been nothing but rough." Her eyes lifted to his, steady. "And you think peace comes wrapped in silk gloves?" He had no answer for that. The night wore on, and silence returned. But silence on the plains was never empty for long. A distant sound pricked Jeb's ear, the faint thud of hooves, too many to be wild strays. His hand slid to the revolver at his side as he rose, scanning the darkness beyond the firelight. "Stay put," he muttered, his voice tight. But Clara didn't stay put. Her jaw was set, eyes sharp, no fear in her stance. From the shadows, 3 riders emerged, faces half covered with bandanas, guns glinting in the starlight. Outlaws. Jeb stepped forward, his revolver raised. "Turn back," he warned, his tone like steel. The men laughed, their voices rough. "Looks like you got yourself company tonight, Carter," one sneered. "Maybe we'll take more than your horses." Clara moved before Jeb could stop her, swinging the burning branch wide, sending sparks flying into the air. Her voice rang clear. "You'll take nothing from us." For a moment, the odds shifted. Jeb used it, firing a warning shot into the dirt at their feet. The men cursed, spurred their horses, and vanished into the dark. When silence returned, Jeb lowered his gun and turned to Clara. She still held the torch, her chest rising with fast breaths, but her eyes were steady. "You're reckless," he muttered, though there was something new in his voice, something close to respect. Clara set the branch aside, meeting his gaze without flinching. "Or maybe I just know enough not to let fear do the talking." Jeb said nothing, but as he watched her settle by the fire again, he realized the truth. This woman wasn't what he'd ordered. She was more.